Not that long ago, Tarantino said 2019 was the last fucking year for movies. Looking at what Disney has put out in the 2020s, the guy's not wrong. I'm not here to dunk on people losing jobs. Movies like these employ a ton of folks, and that actually matters. But just look at what Disney greenlit. Bloated budgets, idiotic plots, behind-the-scenes mess. Of course these things flop. No one should be surprised. Disney's had plenty of bombs, but the 2020s are on another level. Let's break down some of the absolute dumbest. So Disney greenlights Haunted Mansion based on the Disneyland ride, throws $150 million at it, and then wonders why nobody shows up. It barely scrapes up $117 million worldwide, so after marketing, Disney clocks at least $100 million loss here. They released this in July, right in the middle of summer, literally a week after Barbie and Oppenheimer blow up the box office. A spooky family movie, nowhere near Halloween, nobody in their right mind schedules it like this. The cast is ridiculous here. Rosario Dawson, Danny DeVito, Owen Wilson. The list just keeps going. Too bad none of them could actually promote the movie because the actors' strike hit. So nobody even heard about this thing, and if you did, you were just confused why it was coming out in the wrong season. Haunted Mansion never had the kind of brand power you get from Pirates of the Caribbean, and after a flop adaptation in 2003, nobody was exactly begging for another shot. Critics tore it up, 37% on Rotten Tomatoes. Audiences were way kinder, but with almost nobody in the theater, good luck with word of mouth. Disney basically drove this thing out into traffic and left it to get run over. Director Justin Simien later said he's proud of the film's emotional side, but just disappointed by how it all went down. There's dumb, and then there's whatever the hell Disney does with Indiana Jones 5. The official budget Disney talks about is $290 million. But thanks to Securities and Exchange Commission filings and Forbes actually doing their job, turns out the real cost comes in at $419 million. Earlier, people thought Disney might lose about $134 million, but with the real cost out there, this probably joins the all-time flops like The Lone Ranger and John Carter. $200 million down the drain, easy. People still remember how bad Crystal Skull went in 2008, and let's be honest, the idea of an 81-year-old Harrison Ford running around and punching Nazis doesn't exactly pull people in. Even the opening train scene, which actually works, isn't enough to save the back half, which just falls apart. Any talk about Phoebe Waller-Bridge picking up the whip for a reboot pretty much ends here. Disney overspends, sets up a break-even point nobody can hit, and between pandemic delays and Ford getting hurt, costs spiral out of control. At the box office, it gets buried by Mission Impossible and Barbie. Disney just screwed up another classic Lucasfilm property, and nobody won. At least Harrison Ford says he's happy he did it, even if shit happens. Jungle Cruise is just classic Disney excess, a $200 million movie based on a ride barely anyone cares about. The release happens in July 2021 when theaters are half shut and Disney splits the launch. In cinemas and $30 on Disney Plus at the same time. So the box office gets gutted before it even starts. It makes about $210 million worldwide, which is nowhere close to breaking even once marketing gets added in. Most families just stay home and wait, or pirate it. In China, it shows up even later, so by then, pirated copies are everywhere. COVID kills theater turnout, and streaming cannibalizes what's left. And reviews were just okay. People like The Rock and Emily Blunt, but nobody needs to see a paint-by-numbers jungle adventure that tries to channel old-school Indiana Jones. No built-in fan base, and not enough nostalgia to drive anyone to the theater. Disney still claims it's a success given the givens, but everyone knows this thing is a flop, even if it technically landed #1 its opening weekend. Mulan was a disaster on every level. Disney throws $200 million at the live-action remake, plans a big global run, then COVID wipes out theaters. They delay, then dump it onto Disney Plus for $30 a pop in the US and other countries. In China, where Disney hopes for a win, it opens weak, $23 million, and then drops off a cliff. Total global box office sits at $70 million. It wasn't all pandemic's fault, though. The lead actress, Liu Yifei, publicly backed Hong Kong police during the democracy protest, sparking the whole movement to boycott Mulan. And when the movie finally premiered, people realized Disney actually shot parts of it in Xinjiang, right by the internment camps, and even thanked the local authorities in the credits. U.S. politicians slammed Disney for whitewashing genocide, and Senator Josh Hawley publicly called it all an affront to American values. All that, plus it was a remake that ditched everything people love. No Mushu, no songs, and the lead was just wooden acting. Even in China, audiences called it fake. Piracy exploded and the Chinese government shut down official marketing. Disney later admitted they misjudged just about everything here, and them trying to please China just backfired. The new Snow White remake cost $270 million, reshoots included. It brought back just $205 million worldwide. That's a $115 million loss, which at this point just feels like another Tuesday for Disney. Snow White ran into controversy before a single frame showed up. Rachel Zegler gets cast as Snow White. The internet freaks out. Then she gives interviews trashing the 1937 version, says this time Snow White won't be saved by a prince, and starts talking about becoming a leader instead. Clips go viral. Traditionalists lose it, accuse Disney of going woke, and conservative pundits start a culture war over a kid's movie. Disney tries to please everyone, says the seven dwarfs aren't dwarfs anymore, they're magical creatures. Peter Dinklage criticizes the whole thing. At the same time, nobody outside of Disney really cares about a new Snow White. Unlike Beauty and the Beast or Little Mermaid, this one has no nostalgia going for it. The result is a movie that costs way too much, gets made by committee, and pleases no one. Every attempt to update or fix the story just makes things messier. The Marvels took a franchise that basically printed money and managed to make it the punchline of the year. $200 million budget plus marketing, and they couldn't even get close to breaking even. From the start, this thing looked confused. Even the director, Nia DaCosta, called it wacky and silly in interviews. You'd need a spreadsheet just to keep track of which Disney Plus shows you're supposed to watch before even sitting down. The end result was a sequel nobody asked for, starring Brie Larson and two leads barely anyone outside hardcore fans know. And the story only made sense if you've been binging Marvel shows all year. Screen Actors Guild strike was in full swing back then, so there was zero promo, but honestly, putting the cast on late night wouldn't have saved this mess. Even Bob Iger threw his hands up, blaming COVID and not enough supervision on set. Sure, blame the pandemic, but at some point, someone has to notice you're making a movie nobody's actually interested in. The Marvels doesn't have characters or villains or action anyone cares about. It was all generic jokes and generic set pieces. All that money, and the only thing they accomplished was setting a new low for the Marvel Universe. Pixar used to be bulletproof, but not anymore. Lightyear shows what happens when you take a beloved character, overthink it, and forget why anyone liked the thing in the first place. $200 million spent, but the end result is a rare Pixar bomb. This isn't Toy Story buzz, this is the movie that inspired Andy's toy. It's so meta, it's just confusing. Kids want to see Woody, Rex, or Potato Head again, but instead they get a serious sci-fi movie with zero of the Toy Story crew. Even Pixar's Pete Docter had to admit people kept waiting for familiar faces who never show up. The gap between what audiences expected and what Disney delivered was just too wide. Add in the controversies over a same-sex kiss, which got the movie banned in some markets, plus Disney swapping out Tim Allen for Chris Evans. So there's a PR disaster baked right in. Pixar already trained families to expect new movies on streaming, so nobody rushes out to see it. Brand alone isn't enough anymore, and Lightyear proves it. For Disney's 100th anniversary, they launch Wish. Big budget, massive campaign, and it bombs at the box office, just $231 million worldwide. Analysts figure Disney took a $130 million loss here, making this one of their worst animated openings ever. Wish is the kind of movie that plays like a checklist. The reviews hit right away, about 50% on Rotten Tomatoes, and most critics call it bland and derivative. Feels like a cover version of a better Disney movie, not something new. Even the family crowd doesn't bite. Thanksgiving weekend comes, and a DreamWorks sequel about singing trolls outperforms Disney's big celebration. Audiences just don't care, and the magic is gone. Brand loyalty doesn't mean what it used to. After years of pushing movies to Disney Plus early, families are now trained to wait for streaming. Why spend theater money when it'll show up at home in a month? The excitement just isn't there, and it's not coming back anytime soon. This one should have been a hit. Strong reviews, cool Southeast Asian influences, gorgeous animation. But COVID hits, theaters are half open, and Disney drops it on Disney Plus the same day. Audiences stay home, pay $30, and skip the box office entirely. Cinemark won't even show it in some locations. They were that mad about the streaming release. Under normal circumstances, it probably would have done just fine, but Disney all but guaranteed a soft debut by cannibalizing their own audience. Theaters struggle, the studio tries to brag about okay numbers, but everyone knows it's a loss. Add in piracy, when a perfect digital version is online immediately, ticket sales everywhere else collapse. Not a franchise, not a must-see, just one more event movie that nobody treats like an event. Disney calls this one a sacrifice for streaming goodwill, but all they're really doing is teaching people not to bother with theaters at all. Elio takes the crown for Pixar's worst opening ever. Third place in its first weekend, barely $21 million to start, and an even worse international total. The whole thing is a wake-up call. Pixar and Disney have real problems, and sequels alone won't save them. This comes after Inside Out 2, which brought in real money, so Disney tries to act like everything's fine. But look at the pattern. Before Elio, they had Lightyear and Elemental, which just scraped by after a rough opening. Bob Chapek's decision to throw Soul, Luca, and Turning Red straight onto Disney Plus rewired audiences. People now expect to wait at home for anything that's not a sequel. Pixar used to be an event. Now even their original films are afterthoughts. After Elio's crash, Disney is in panic mode. The next slate is more sequels just to be safe. 2 original films, Hoppers and Gatto, are coming, but the studio's watching every dollar. Disney's biggest brands used to dominate, but now Lilo and Stitch live-action remake easily outgrosses their big new Pixar title. Internally, people point to lost talent, unhappy creatives, and the sense that all the magic is getting squeezed out by bad decisions and even worse management.